I wasn't looking for secrets that morning. I wasn't even thinking about him. The house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that feels like it's hiding something. Sunlight spilled through the curtains, dust floating like tiny stars in the living room. I had my coffee in one hand, laundry basket in the other, just doing what I always did. Cleaning, folding, organizing, keeping our life together one task at a time. That's when I saw it. A single sheet of paper sticking out from the back of his desk drawer, just enough to catch my eye. At first I thought it was an old bill, maybe a receipt, nothing special. But something about the way it was tucked, carefully hidden yet not fully concealed, sent a small shiver down my spine. My heart didn't know why to beat faster, but it did. I pulled it out slowly. A crease ran down the middle like someone had opened it many times before, and then folded it shut with trembling hands. The title at the top read, Birth Certificate. I froze. I don't remember sitting down, but suddenly I was on the edge of the bed, staring at those printed words. My eyes followed the lines automatically, like they had a mind of their own. Child's name, unfamiliar. Mother's name, familiar. Painfully familiar. Her. The woman he always said was just a friend. Just someone who needed advice. Just someone who texted late at night. Just someone I should stop worrying about. But then, the line that stole the air from my lungs, father's name, my husband. The room didn't move. Time didn't move. Only one thought echoed in my mind, louder than my own heartbeat. If she was just a friend, why is he listed as the father? I didn't confront him right away. People imagine that betrayal feels like a sudden explosion, a dramatic moment where everything bursts apart at once. But it isn't like that. It's slower, quieter. It's a dripping tap you try to ignore until you realize the water has filled the whole house and you're already drowning. After I found the birth certificate, I folded it exactly how it was, slid it back into the drawer and pretended nothing had changed, but everything had. I went through the rest of the day in silence, moving like a ghost through my own life. He came home late, again, smelling like cologne that wasn't his and exhaustion he didn't explain. He kissed my cheek absent-mindedly, like a habit he barely remembered doing. His phone buzzed in his pocket as he headed to the shower. He didn't check it. He didn't have to. He already knew who it was. I looked at the blinking screen on the kitchen counter. Message from Mark. But I knew that wasn't Mark. He didn't have a friend named Mark, not one I had ever met. I poured myself a glass of water, took a deep breath, and reminded myself of one thing. I needed to see everything before I spoke a single word. Because if I confronted him too soon, he would twist the truth, flip the story, convince me I was insecure, jealous, imagining things. He had done it before, not like this, not to this degree, but enough to know he was capable of turning blame into fog. Not this time. This time I would walk through the fog with a flashlight. The first signs. The next morning I woke early, earlier than him. I sat at the dining table with my coffee, staring at the steam rising from the mug, thinking about all the tiny red flags I had ignored over the past year. They came back to me one by one like photographs being developed in a darkroom. There was that birthday dinner of mine he missed because he got stuck at work. But the restaurant called around 9:30 and said our reservation had been canceled by him 3 hours earlier. There were the weekends he suddenly needed extra shifts, but I later found a cash withdrawal for a hotel in another part of town. There were the nights he showered the moment he came home, not after dinner, not before bed, but immediately as if he was washing away evidence. I remembered how he once came home with lipstick on his shirt. I laughed at the time, actually laughed, because he told me it was from a customer hugging him at his job. I wanted to scream thinking about it now. Was I blind, or was I in love? Maybe both. People think betrayal begins with lying, but it doesn't. It begins with trust, the type of trust that makes you turn away from the obvious because believing a lie is easier than accepting your heart is breaking. I finished my coffee, wiped my tears, and made a decision. If he could lie silently, I could investigate silently. Learning his patterns, I started simple, watching. He left the house at the same time every morning, 7:35 a.m., and returned around 7 p.m. on weekdays. But I noticed something new. Some nights he came home after dinner time claiming heavy deadlines, late files, broken printers, client surprises. I didn't question, I simply noted. I began writing his schedule in a small notebook I kept in the kitchen drawer. Whenever he left late, I marked it. Whenever he showered immediately after coming home, I marked it. Whenever his phone vibrated and he ignored it or grabbed it too quickly, I marked it. And the name Mark showed up almost every day. It was always Mark texting, never calling, never sending voice notes, just messages, short, frequent, midnight, lunchtime, even mornings. Once, when his phone was lying face up, I saw a message preview flash. "Are you coming today? She keeps asking about you." My chest tightened. She, a child? Their child? I swallowed the lump in my throat and kept my face calm when he returned from the bathroom. He didn't suspect a thing. He kissed my forehead, asked if I had eaten, and heated leftovers in the microwave. Domestic normalcy wrapped around us like poison disguised as comfort. That night I lay in bed awake, staring at the ceiling while he slept peacefully beside me. He was breathing evenly, unbothered, unaware. The rhythm of his breath felt like a stranger's. The search for truth begins. I spent the next week quietly gathering information. I checked old credit card statements, hotel rooms, restaurants across town, unfamiliar charges. I remembered how he once claimed he was helping a coworker move apartments. He had stayed overnight. I didn't question it back then because I trusted him, trusted us. But now every memory felt like a puzzle piece. I visited his workplace one afternoon pretending to bring him lunch. He wasn't there. His coworker, the receptionist, told me he had taken the day off. I smiled politely, walked back to my car, and let the engine run while I tried to steady my breathing. Where was he? I checked our bank app. Another cash withdrawal that morning. Same district as before, a hotel district. I didn't go there, not yet. I wasn't ready to see more than I could handle. Instead, I drove home, sat on the couch, and scrolled through old photos of us, smiling, laughing, holding hands. They all hurt. Observing his phone. He guarded his phone like it was made of gold. He took it to the bathroom, kept it face down, turned off notifications, changed his passcode. It wasn't always like that. There was a time he left it charging in the living room, forgotten. A time when trust flowed easily between us. I remembered when we used to fall asleep with our phones on the nightstand, screens unlocked, because we had nothing to hide. Now the device might as well have been a vault. One evening while he showered, his phone vibrated twice. Didn't touch it, not yet. But I memorized the rhythm. 2 short buzzes, a pause, 2 short buzzes. It happened again the next night, and again the next. Patterns. He wasn't just lying, he was living in patterns, ones I could track. The night of the unexpected call. A week later, something changed. We were having dinner, spaghetti, garlic bread, salad, when his phone rang. Not buzzed, rang. His fork froze halfway to his mouth. The screen lit up. Private number. He didn't answer at first. He stared at it, jaw tense, eyes unmoving. Then he grabbed the phone and walked outside, saying he needed fresh air. I waited. I listened. I heard his voice, low, rushed. "No, not now. I said I'll come tomorrow. She's inside. I can't talk. I said tomorrow." A cold wave washed through me. There was no Mark. There was someone else. And now I knew, because he had panic in his voice. When he came back inside, he smiled too wide. "That was work," he said. I nodded and served him more salad. Inside, my heart wasn't breaking. It was rearranging itself into something sharper. A child. Appears in the shadows. I found the child by accident. It was a Thursday afternoon. I finished work early and drove past a playground near his office district, the district with the hotels and cash withdrawals. I wasn't looking for him, not that day. I just needed air, space, somewhere to sit and think. I parked near the swings and watched parents push their children. Laughter filled the park. I envied them, envy mixed with sadness. Their lives felt simple, pure, untangled by lies. Then I saw her, the woman, the friend. She stood under a tree, hair pulled back, holding a little girl's hand. The girl looked about 4, brown curly hair tied with a pink ribbon. One sock slipped halfway off her shoe, that messy, adorable kind of disorganization that belongs only to children. I stared, my breath caught. The little girl turned her head, and my world stopped. Her eyes, my husband's eyes, same warm brown, same long lashes, same shape. I felt dizzy. The woman bent down, tying the child's shoelace, and the girl giggled, the same laugh he had as a child in his old home videos, a sound I knew too well. I gripped the steering wheel, my nails dug into my skin. I didn't approach, I didn't speak. I sat there, tears forming, my vision blurring, because now the birth certificate wasn't just paper, it had a face, a heartbeat, a laugh. I drove home without remembering half the journey. The investigation deepens. That night after he fell asleep, I sat in the living room, holding the throw blanket to my chest like armor. I opened my laptop and searched the woman's name. Her social media wasn't private, not fully. I saw pictures, not many, but enough. A hospital bracelet, a newborn wrapped in a pink blanket, a man's hand cropped out halfway, holding the baby's tiny fingers. The hand looked familiar, a silver ring, a scar on the knuckle, from when he cut himself opening a can during our first year of marriage. I stared at that picture until the sun came up. The next morning, my eyes were swollen, my head heavy, my body exhausted, but I felt strangely calm. I had crossed a line, not morally, but emotionally. I could no longer pretend. Trust was gone. Now only truth mattered. Collecting evidence. Silently, I spent the next month collecting proof. Not because I wanted to trap him, but because he would never confess without evidence. I saved screenshots of suspicious messages, photos of credit card withdrawals, pictures of the woman and child, copies of receipts I found in his jacket pockets, timestamps of his arrivals and departures. I wasn't preparing for a fight. I was preparing for closure, whichever shape it took. Some nights I sat outside on the porch after midnight, thinking about our wedding vows, for better or worse, in sickness and health, in honesty and trust. We had promised those things in front of everyone we loved, yet here I was, alone, uncovering the side of him he hid. The final clue. One afternoon, his phone vibrated on the couch while he was in the kitchen. A message preview popped up. "She drew you again today. She asked if you're coming for her birthday. Please don't break her heart." My throat closed. Birthday. Their daughter's birthday. I looked at him. He smiled at me like everything was normal. A normal smile. A normal day. A normal lie. I excused myself, walked into the bedroom, and sat on the edge of the bed where I first read the birth certificate. My hands trembled, but not with fear, with clarity. Because now I wasn't guessing, I wasn't interpreting, I wasn't imagining, I knew. And once you know the truth, the silence becomes unbearable. The turning point, silence breaks inside. I went for a walk that evening after dinner. He asked where I was going. I said I needed air. He didn't follow. He trusted my silence. I sat on a bench in the park and looked up at the night sky. Stars blinked behind drifting clouds. I remembered when we used to sit like this together, talking about future plans, children of our own, a house with a garden, travel, holidays, laughter. Now he had a child, just not with me, not with his wife. The betrayal wasn't just the affair, it was the secret family he built behind my back while I waited for him to be ready to start ours. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but I let them fall silently. I caught my reflection in the phone screen, tired eyes, messy hair, clenched jaw, and realized something. I was done being quiet. Not impulsive, not reckless, not emotional, but done. I walked home slowly, rehearsing my words, breathing deeply, preparing myself for the storm I knew was coming. He was sitting on the couch when I entered, scrolling through his phone, completely unaware of the shift inside me. I sat beside him calmly. For the first time in weeks, I truly looked at him. The man I loved, the man who lied, the man who fathered a child while promising me the world. He didn't notice my stare at first. He didn't notice anything, but he would. Because silence had carried me this far, and now it was time to speak. The night I decided to confront him, the house felt different, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. He sat on the couch, legs stretched out, remote in hand, flipping through channels without really watching anything. His face looked relaxed, almost tired, the way people look when they believe life is going exactly the way they planned. I wondered if he sensed the truth rising inside me like a tide. I wondered if he could feel the air changing. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady. He glanced up, surprised. "Now? Something wrong?" I swallowed. Everything was wrong, but I kept my tone calm. "Yes, now." He muted the TV slowly, like someone delaying a moment they don't understand but instinctively fear. "Okay," he said. "What's going on?" I sat across from him, not beside him. That was the first shift. His eyes flickered briefly to the empty space between us, as if the physical distance suddenly meant something. I took a breath that felt like inhaling fire. "I need to ask you something," I said, "and I want the truth." His jaw tightened, barely, but enough for me to notice. He nodded once, cautiously. "Are you having an affair?" The words tasted like metal. He blinked, stunned for a fraction of a second, a fraction too long. Then his expression shifted into something practiced, familiar. "No," he said softly. "Of course not. Why would you even—" I lifted my hand to stop him, calm, controlled. "I'm not done." He closed his mouth. For the first time in a long time, he looked unsure. "Who is she to you?" I asked. "Really?" He didn't respond right away. His fingers twitched slightly against his knee like a guilty pulse. "You mean, my friend?" he said, voice too light. "We've been over this. She's just a friend," I finished for him. My voice barely rose, but the cut was clean. "Right," he said, pushing a breath out. "Exactly. You're overthinking. I didn't let him finish. "Overthinking?" I repeated quietly. Is that what I was doing? All these months? He nodded again, relieved to find a script he recognized. "Yes, you've been stressed. I get it. Work, life. Sometimes we imagine—" I stood up slowly, walked toward the hallway, and opened the bedroom door. "I want to show you something," I called to him. He followed, footsteps uneven, hesitation rounding his shoulders. In the bedroom, I walked to his desk and opened the drawer exactly how I found it that day. He watched. I pulled out the folded paper, carefully, respectfully, the way someone handles evidence they wish they never found. I didn't unfold it. He knew what it was. Color drained from his face, just a hint, but enough. "I found this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "And now we're going to stop pretending." His lips parted. A sound escaped, somewhere between breath and panic, but no words. "Say something," I said. "Anything." He swallowed hard. "I can explain." I nodded once. "Then explain." The unraveling begins. He sat on the bed, elbows on his knees, hands clasped together, the posture of someone praying to a god they stopped believing in. I stayed standing, the posture of someone who refuses to fall first. His voice cracked when he finally spoke. It It wasn't supposed to go that far, he whispered. It wasn't supposed to happen. My heart hammered, but I kept my face still. How long? I asked. He exhaled, long, shaky, like he was expelling every lie at once. A little over 2 years. 2 years. My knees nearly buckled, but I didn't move. While we were trying for a child? I asked, voice faint but sharp. He closed his eyes, guilt carved into silence. Yes, he said. I pressed my fingers against my palm so hard my nails left marks. And the baby? I couldn't say her name. Not yet. The truth was already too big. He opened his eyes slowly. She's mine, he whispered. The room tilted slightly, not physically but emotionally, like the ground beneath us had shifted. I nodded once, the smallest acknowledgement, because I already knew. But hearing it still felt like being hit by a moving train you saw coming. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. His voice cracked again. Because I didn't want to lose you. I let out a laugh, short, humorless. You had a child with another woman while you were married to me and you thought silence would save us? He stood up suddenly, reaching for my arm, but stopped when I stepped back. I'm sorry, he said, the words frantic. I didn't plan it. I was stupid. It happened once and then… I raised an eyebrow. Once? He hesitated. Too long again. Twice, he admitted. A beat, a breath, a shattering. I felt a tremor inside me, rage or heartbreak. I couldn't tell. You didn't just cheat, I whispered. You built a life, you built a family, and you expected me to walk around blind forever. He covered his face with his hands like a child hiding from consequences. I didn't know what to do, he said. I was scared. She got pregnant. I thought she was lying at first. I didn't believe her. I asked for tests. It was a mess. And then I held up my hand again. I don't need every detail. I need the truth. He lowered his hand slowly. I love her? I asked. The most dangerous question. His eyes flickered, a tiny tremor of guilt. No, he said quickly. Too quickly. You don't pause before saying no to something you're sure about, I said softly. He flinched. I don't love her like I love you, he tried again. That wasn't the question, I replied. Silence stretched between us like a bridge on fire. The child becomes the center. I took a slow breath. And the girl? I asked. Your daughter. Does she know? His voice softened, almost tender, and that tenderness hurt more than any confession. She just knows I visit, he said. She thinks I'm someone important. A father? I asked. He looked at the floor. She's too young to understand, but yes, she calls me Daddy sometimes. A crack formed inside my chest, small but deep. The type of crack that doesn't break immediately. It expands slowly until the whole structure collapses. And what about us? I asked. When were you planning to tell me? He looked genuinely helpless. Never, he whispered. I didn't want you to hate me. I laughed again, bitter, broken. You didn't want to lose me, I corrected. Hate requires feeling. Silence requires control. You chose control. I saw it land, the truth puncturing his facade. The hidden photos. I walked to the nightstand, opened the second drawer, and pulled out my phone. I had saved everything. I showed him a screenshot of the playground photo, the preview message from Mark, the cropped photo of his hand holding the newborn, the hotel receipt, the message, "She keeps asking about you." His face crumpled. You knew all this time? He asked, voice breaking. I shook my head. No, I learned all this time, because trusting you became dangerous. He sank onto the bed again, wiping his face. I never wanted to be this person, he whispered. And yet, I said, here we are. The turning of the table. I sat down across from him, not close, but near enough for him to feel the weight of my presence. "What do you want now?" I asked, the question that mattered most. He looked up, red eyes, trembling hands. "I want us," he said. "I want you. I want to fix this." I stared at him, searching his face for something real, something unedited. "And her?" I asked. "And your daughter?" He hesitated, not out of cruelty but confusion. "I can't abandon her," he said. His voice was small, like a confession from the child he once was. "And I can't abandon myself," I replied. Silence, deep, heavy, final. "You built two worlds," I continued, "and you expected me to live only in the one you controlled." He covered his face again, but I didn't reach for him. I wasn't there to comfort his guilt. I was there to face my own heartbreak. The question that matters most. Finally, I asked the question I had been afraid to ask. If I hadn't found the birth certificate, would you have ever told me? He didn't answer right away, and that silence was the answer. "No," I said. "You wouldn't have. You were waiting for time to bury the truth, not for courage to reveal it." Tears slid down his cheek. "I'm sorry," he repeated desperately. "I know," I whispered. And I did. He was sorry, but sorry doesn't undo a child. Sorry doesn't unbreak trust. Sorry doesn't erase a year of late nights and hidden messages. Sorry is just the first step, not the last one. The beginning of the end. I stood up again, slowly this time, the movement steady, controlled. "I need space," I said. He stood too, reaching for me, then stopping himself halfway, like someone remembering a rule they agreed to. "For how long?" he asked, voice trembling. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but long enough to breathe without drowning." He nodded, once, slowly, like a man accepting a sentence. "I'll sleep on the couch," he whispered. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I walked out of the room, closing the door gently behind me. Not a slam, not a shout, just a quiet separation, the kind that hurts the most. The night alone. I lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, the same ceiling we once dreamed under, planned under, laughed under. Now it felt like a stranger. I listened as he walked to the living room, as he unfolded blankets, as he turned off the lights. I heard him cry, quietly, into the pillow. I hadn't heard him cry in years, and even through the pain I realized something. Hurting him didn't make me feel better, because this wasn't revenge, it was truth. And truth doesn't choose sides, it just reveals them. The final line of part 3. Just before sleep finally tugged at my eyes, one question echoed in my mind, a question that would shape what came next. Do I want to stay with the man I married, or walk away from the man he became? I didn't have the answer. Not yet. But I knew part 4 would demand one. Morning came, but sunlight didn't warm the house the way it used to. I woke to silence. Not peaceful silence, but the kind that fills a space after something breaks. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling again, but this time the ceiling stared back with a question. Now what? My husband wasn't in the bedroom. Part of me wondered if he had left during the night, walked out with guilt, or disappeared into someone else's arms again. But when I stepped into the hallway, I saw him asleep on the couch, body curled, blanket half off, face swollen from crying. It was the first time in a long time I saw him without defenses. For a brief moment, pity tugged at my chest. Then the ache of betrayal pulled harder, reminding me why the distance existed in the first place. He stirred when I walked into the kitchen to make coffee. His voice was rough, uncertain. "Did you sleep?" "Not much," I replied, pouring water into the machine. He nodded, staring at the carpet, as if our entire marriage was written there in invisible ink. A minute passed, 2, 3. The machine hissed and gurgled. Finally, he exhaled. "What happens next?" he asked quietly. I didn't answer because I didn't know. The weight of responsibilities. I made 2 mugs of coffee, though I wasn't sure if I wanted to hand him one. But when I placed the second mug on the table beside the couch, he looked up, surprised, grateful, ashamed all at once. "Thank you," he murmured. I sat at the dining table, hands wrapped around the warmth of my cup, eyes fixed on nothing. Words circled in my mind like birds unsure where to land. He broke the silence first. "I'll do whatever you need," he said. His voice was small, not weak, but stripped. I looked up. "Whatever I need," I repeated, not mocking, just confirming. He nodded. "Yes, if you want space, I'll give you space. If you want the truth, I'll answer anything. If you want counseling, I'll go. If you want me gone, I'll leave." The last sentence hung in the air like smoke. "I don't want promises," I said quietly. "I want honesty, even if it hurts." He swallowed. "Ask me," he said. I took a shaky breath. "Do you love her?" He didn't answer immediately. He stared into his coffee as if the truth sat at the bottom of the cup. Finally, "I care about her," he said. "But no, I don't love her the way I love you." A familiar phrase, but it didn't soothe me this time. "And the child?" I asked. A softness entered his eyes, a softness I hadn't seen directed at me in months. "I love her," he whispered. "I can't deny that." I nodded slowly. The truth hurt, but it was real. "I don't want her to suffer because of what we did," he continued, voice cracking. "She's innocent. She didn't ask for this." I stared at the sunlight spilling across the floor. It stopped just short of reaching him, like even the light didn't know where to stand. The first attempt at moving forward. For days we spoke in quiet fragments, conversations stitched together with painful honesty. Some nights he slept on the couch, some nights I did. We didn't touch, we barely made eye contact. But we talked, truly talked, more than we had in years. He apologized again and again, but apologies were no longer the currency I needed. I wanted clarity, understanding, time. One night, as rain tapped against the windows, he asked, "Would you ever consider meeting her? Meeting my daughter?" I froze, the air thick between us. My first instinct was no, a loud, violent no. But then the reality settled. She was alive, she existed, and if I stayed, if we tried to rebuild, she would always be part of our lives. So I asked the hardest question of all. "Would you still visit her if I asked you not to?" He didn't pause, not even a second. "Yes," he said. Quiet, certain. And somehow, that honesty made me trust him more than any denial ever could. I looked down at my hands, twisting the hem of my shirt. "She deserves her father," I said softly, "and I won't be the person who takes that away from her." He covered his mouth with his hands, shoulders shaking, but he didn't cry loudly, just trembled. "Thank you," he whispered through tears. I nodded, not out of forgiveness, but acknowledgement. The first decision was made, the visit that changed everything. A week later, he asked again. "Are you sure?" he whispered. I nodded, though my stomach tightened into knots. We drove to the park, that park, the one where I had seen them once before, where the truth first became flesh and bone instead of ink and suspicion. The air smelled like freshly cut grass and childhood. Children laughed in the distance. I saw her before she saw him, the little girl on the swings kicking her legs trying to fly. Her laughter rode the wind, and then I saw the woman, hair tied neatly, eyes tired but warm, standing close by. When she noticed our car, surprise flickered across her face, then tension. She walked over first while the child stayed swinging. His body stiffened beside me, but I didn't flinch. "Hi," the woman said carefully, voice low. "I didn't know you were coming today." He nodded. I wanted to talk." Her gaze flicked to me and I saw a flicker of guilt, the kind that lives behind the eyes and never fully fades. "You're his wife," she said softly. I nodded. "Yes." She swallowed hard, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry." 3 words, not enough to erase years, but more honest than silence. I nodded again, not ready to reply with words. The little girl ran toward us suddenly, hair bouncing, eyes shining. "Daddy!" The word pierced the air, sharp, undeniable. He crouched down and opened his arms, and she collided into him with the pure force of love only children know. Hugged her, not like someone with a secret, but like a father whose heart was full and breaking at the same time. I watched, my stomach twisting, but I didn't look away. The girl pulled back and stared at me curiously. Her mother kneeled beside her. "This is Daddy's friend," she said gently, hesitating on the word. I didn't correct her, not here, not now. The little girl smiled shyly. "Hi." My voice trembled when I answered. "Hi, sweetheart." Her eyes widened and she giggled, as if the word sweetheart was candy melting in her mouth. She ran back to the swings. The woman stood slowly and looked at me again, eyes glassy. "I never meant to steal anything," she whispered. "I didn't know he was married at first. When I found out, I was pregnant already, and then I didn't know how to walk away. I told myself I wouldn't ruin your life, and then I did anyway." Her honesty shook me, not because it softened the blow, but because it echoed my own struggle. "We can't change the past," I said quietly, "but the future, we can choose what to do with it." Her eyes filled with tears she didn't let fall. "Thank you," she whispered. Behind us I heard laughter again, his laughter mixed with the girl's, and something inside me cracked open, not broken, just opened. My husband wiped his daughter's face gently as she held up a flower she picked for him, petals dropping like fragile promises. In that moment I realized something I hadn't expected. I didn't hate the child, I hated the betrayal, and those were not the same. The night of first understanding. On the drive home, neither of us spoke. He kept glancing at me, checking, searching, hoping, but I didn't give him anything yet. I still needed space, time, breath. My heart was swollen with 1,000 emotions that didn't know where to go. When we reached home, I stood at the doorway and finally said, "She's beautiful." His eyes filled again. "She is," he whispered. "Thank you for coming." I nodded, voice soft. "It wasn't for you," I said. "It was for her, and for me." He accepted that. I could see it in his posture. Something shifted between us. Not forgiveness, not healing, but understanding. That night I slept in the bed again, but we didn't touch, we didn't talk. But for the first time in weeks, I slept. Honesty replaces secrets. Days passed, then weeks. We continued talking. Small conversations, big confessions, hard truths. We didn't pretend anymore. We talked about counseling. We talked about trust. We talked about boundaries, real ones, not imaginary lines drawn in denial. I asked questions I had been afraid to ask. "Did you ever want to leave me for her?" "No," he answered, voice steady. "I never wanted to leave you." "Did you ever think about telling me before the baby was born?" "Yes," he said. "But I convinced myself lying was kinder." "That wasn't kindness," I replied. "I know," he whispered, and I believed him, not because it healed the wound, but because his regret finally sounded real. The decision we make together. One evening he sat beside me, still not touching, still careful, and said, "I want to rebuild us." I nodded slowly. "I want that too," I whispered, "but rebuilding won't erase what happened." "I know," he said. "I don't want to erase it. I want to earn it." We sat in silence, side by side on the couch. After a long moment, I reached out and placed my hand over his. His breath hitched, like a man being given another chance to breathe. This doesn't mean I forgive you, I said. I understand, he replied, but it means I'm willing to try. His shoulders trembled, relief, pain, hope mixed together. He squeezed my hand gently, not with ownership but gratitude, and for the first time in months, I let myself lean against him, just a little, enough to remember what home once felt like, enough to imagine what home could be again. The closing line of Part 4, Rebuilding, doesn't start with forgiveness. It starts with a decision to hold on, not to who someone was, but to who they can become. And I wasn't sure where our road would lead, not yet. But for the first time since the birth certificate fell into my hands, I felt like I could breathe again. Healing doesn't start with forgiveness. It starts with permission. Permission to hurt, to question, to speak, to feel. After the day at the park, after hearing his daughter call him daddy with joy that echoed inside my chest for days, something inside me began to shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility. That night, lying in bed while he quietly prepared the couch again, I whispered into the darkness, "You can sleep here, with me, but just sleep." I heard the couch creak, the blanket fall, his bare feet pause on the hardwood. Then silence, waiting for permission to believe. I turned on my side as he slipped under the covers, keeping a careful distance between us. I didn't turn to look at him. I didn't reach for his hand. But when I heard his breath steady into sleep, I felt less alone than I had in months. It wasn't love, it wasn't forgiveness. It was the first brick, placed quietly, toward rebuilding. The first session. A week later, we walked into a therapist's office, small, warm, with shelves full of books that smelled like second chances. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, hands on knees, eyes everywhere except each other. The therapist, Dr. Avery, looked at us with the calm patience of someone who had seen love survive worse storms. "Let's start with why you're here," she said. I inhaled. "Because I want to understand if this marriage can become something I can live in again," I answered. He nodded beside me, eyes lowered. "And you?" Dr. Avery asked him. "I want to be the man she deserves," he said softly, "but I don't know how to get there without help." My throat tightened. I wasn't sure if I believed him, but I believed his wanting. Dr. Avery leaned forward slightly. "Rebuilding a relationship isn't about going back," she said. "It's about building something new using what survived the breaking." Her words landed somewhere deep inside me, not a promise, but a map. Facing the cracks without looking away. Healing wasn't linear. Some days I woke up hopeful. Other days I woke up angry at memories I couldn't stop replaying. During one session, I asked the question that had haunted me since the beginning. Why didn't you tell me before she was born? He exhaled, a long, heavy release. Because every time I tried, I imagined losing you, he said, and I wasn't brave enough to face that. Lying didn't save us, I whispered. He nodded, eyes wet. I know. I thought silence would protect what we had, but silence didn't protect us. It suffocated us. I closed my eyes for a moment. It hurt, but it hurt less than pretending. Dr. Avery spoke gently. Betrayal steals trust, she said. But truth told too late can steal something else, the feeling of safety. Rebuilding means learning how to feel safe again. I looked at him, not with softness yet, but with clarity. I need time, I said. I'll give you all of it, he replied. And for the first time, his voice didn't sound like a promise. It sounded like a choice. Relearning each other. Outside of therapy, life continued, work, chores, dinners, routines, but something was different. We started sharing small pieces of ourselves again. One evening, he came home with takeout from my favorite Thai place, the kind of small gesture that used to be normal but had vanished over the years. He placed the bag on the counter and hesitated. I remembered, he said gently, that you like extra basil and light spice. I stared at the containers, not moved by the food, but by the fact he noticed me again. We sat at the table eating quietly until he finally spoke. "Do you ever think we could be happy again?" I thought before answering. "Happiness isn't a switch," I said. "It's a decision we keep making, together." He nodded, slowly, like he understood for the first time. The letter I never sent Dr. Avery suggested something unusual. Write each other letters you don't have to send, everything you never said, everything you always wanted to say. I wrote mine late one night, sitting at the kitchen table with only a small lamp for light. I miss the version of you who laughed with me at 2 a.m. I miss the version of me who didn't question every silence. I want to trust again, not because I'm weak, but because I want a life that isn't built on fear. I don't know if we will make it, but I know I want to try, because loving you was never the mistake. Trusting myself less than I trusted us was. I folded the letter, tucked it into my journal, and cried quietly, not out of pain, but release. He never read the letter, but writing it helped me breathe again. The daughter in the picture frame. Weeks later, he placed a small picture frame on the shelf near the TV, a photo of his daughter holding a dandelion, cheeks puffed as she blew the seeds into the wind. He didn't ask permission. He didn't hide it either. He just placed it there, where truth belonged. I stood staring at the photo for a long time. His daughter's smile didn't hurt me the way I expected. Instead, it tangled something inside me. Grief for what I lost, yes, but also something gentler. She existed. She was his child. And if we were building something new, she needed to be part of the blueprint, not a shadow cast over it. That night, as we sat on the couch watching a documentary, I said quietly, "She's beautiful." He turned, startled. "She is," he said, voice soft with gratitude. "Thank you." We didn't say more. We didn't need to. Sometimes healing is a sentence, not a speech. First touch. Since the breaking healing is slow, but moments carry weight. One rainy afternoon, we came home soaked after running errands. He reached out to brush wet hair away from my face. Instinct, not strategy. For the first time in months, I didn't pull away. His fingers grazed my cheek, barely, gently, but the warmth lingered like a memory of home. We stood still, eyes locked, breath shared. He didn't lean closer. He didn't take more. He waited. And waiting was love in its truest form. I whispered, "I'm not ready for everything yet." His breath trembled. "I know," he said. "I'm just grateful you're here." A single tear slid down his cheek, not of regret this time, but relief. I reached up and wiped it away with my thumb. It was the first touch of healing, fragile, slow, real. Rebuilding trust, one truth at a time. Trust didn't return overnight. It came in pieces. He shared his phone password without being asked. He opened messages in front of me without flinching. He scheduled therapy himself, not waiting for reminders. He told his daughter's mother we were rebuilding and asked for boundaries instead of secrets. He stopped disappearing, stopped lying, stopped minimizing. He didn't just apologize, he changed. And that mattered more than any sorry ever could. The day I saw her. Again, months passed before I saw his daughter again. This time we met at a quiet cafe with a playground nearby. The woman greeted me warmly, eyes calmer now. Time had softened her guilt, and seeing the changes in him softened something in me. The little girl ran to the swings, and I followed slowly, watching her laugh as he pushed her gently. Her joy was contagious, pure, unfiltered, untouched by betrayal. She looked back at me once, only once, and smiled like she remembered my voice. I sat beside her mother on a bench, silence stretching between us until she said, "Thank you for giving her space in your life. You didn't have to." I swallowed hard. "She deserves love," I replied. "All children do." The woman nodded, eyes glistening. "And you deserve honesty," she said softly. I hope he gives you that. Forever this time. I stared at him with his daughter. Laughter, wind, sunlight. And for the first time, the sight didn't hurt. It warmed, not replacing pain, but outgrowing it. The night I let him hold me. It happened quietly, like many important things do. We were in bed, both reading separate books, legs stretched under the same blanket. The room was dim, lamplight soft and golden. I put my book down. He put his down too. Instinct again. I turned onto my side and reached for his hand. He froze, not with fear, but disbelief. Can I hold you? He whispered. I nodded, and his arms wrapped around me slowly, cautiously, the way someone holds something breakable but precious. My forehead rested against his chest, and for the first time in a long time I heard his heartbeat without feeling betrayed by its rhythm. We didn't speak, we didn't kiss, we just held each other, not as we once were, but as who we were becoming. And in that silence something mended, not fully, not perfectly, but enough to begin again. The final decision. At our last therapy session of the year, Dr. Avery asked us the question she had waited months to ask. Do you choose each other again? Not the past, not the grief, but who you are now. I looked at him, truly looked, and saw not the man who betrayed me, but the man who stayed to rebuild. I choose us, I whispered. He reached for my hand, slowly, and intertwined his fingers with mine. I choose us, too, he said, voice steady and sure. Dr. Avery smiled softly. Rebuilding isn't about erasing scars, she said. It's about learning to live with them without letting them define you. I squeezed his hand. Our scars didn't vanish. They never would. But they no longer controlled our story. Love doesn't survive because it never breaks. It survives because two people fight to put the pieces back together, again and again, until they build something stronger than what shattered. And I didn't stay because of history. I stayed because of who we were becoming.